High Counselor Nixus watched the emergency transmission for the 14th time, her iridescent feathers dulling with each viewing. The holographic message showed the final moments of the Meridian colony, billions of microscopic machines devouring everything organic, leaving nothing but sterile rock behind. The necrophages, as they were now called, had appeared from the void between galaxies 6 months ago. Since then, they had consumed 17 worlds. "Play it again," she whispered to the quantum AI. This time, she forced herself to watch the entire recording, including the final moments when the colony's governor, her clutch mate, sent the last transmission before the machines reached the command center. The door to her private chambers chimed. "Enter," she called, straightening her ceremonial robes. First Speaker Thorn glided in, his crystalline body refracting the soft light of the room. "The Defense Council has concluded their session," he announced, his voice resonating through the crystal matrix that served as both his body and mind. "Our weapons are useless against them. The necrophages adapt to every frequency we devise, every defense we create." Nixus moved to the window overlooking the capital city of Xylax Prime. The sprawling metropolis of light and energy represented everything her species had achieved in 10,000 years of peaceful expansion. How long? At their current rate of advance? 8 months before they reached the core worlds. Thorn's crystalline form dimmed. "We've lost contact with the entire Perseid arm." Nixus touched the data crystal hanging from her neck, the one containing her clutchmate's final message. "There might be one option left," she said quietly. "But you won't like it." "The quarantine zone?" Thorn's crystalline structure pulsed with alarm. "You can't be serious." "The humans." Nixus turned to face him. "Think about it. They evolved on a world that should have killed them. Extreme gravity, atmospheric toxins, deadly radiation, aggressive predators, and they didn't just survive, they thrived." "They're barbarians," Thorn protested. "We quarantined them for a reason. Their ships still use physical armor alongside energy shields. They build mechanical backup systems instead of relying on pure energy technology. They plan for failure," Nixus interrupted. "Because their world taught them that anything can fail. While we've grown dependent on our perfect technology, they've maintained what we consider primitive redundancies." She activated another hologram, this one showing the human homeworld, Earth. "Our monitoring stations report they've expanded throughout their system despite the quarantine. They build habitats in vacuum, on airless moons, in crushing gravity wells. They survive where we cannot." Thorn drifted closer to the hologram. "The Council will never agree to contact them. The laws will mean nothing if we're all dead." Nixus's feathers shifted to the deep purple of absolute conviction. "I'm not asking for permission, old friend. I'm informing you that I've already sent the signal." The crystalline being's glow flared with shock. "You what?" "An SOS, broadcast directly into the quarantine zone. If I'm wrong about them, we lose nothing. We'll be dead anyway. But if I'm right..." She let the thought hang in the air. "They could destroy us themselves," Thorn warned. "They have every reason to hate us." "Perhaps." Nixus returned to the window. "But everything we know about them suggests they're not vindictive. Violent when threatened, yes. Aggressive in defense, certainly. But they value cooperation, protect the weak, and..." She paused, her feathers rippling with a color that had no name in any galactic tongue. "They love a good fight against impossible odds." The room's sensors chimed an alert. A signal was being broadcast from the edge of the quarantine zone, a response to her SOS. The message was simple, transmitted in the basic galactic trade language they'd taught humanity centuries ago. Message received. Coordinates confirmed. Help is coming. Hold the line. Nixus felt her feathers shift to the bright gold of hope for the first time in months. And Thorn? They're still using radio waves. Primitive, physical signals that the necrophages can't block or corrupt. She smiled, an expression her species had adopted from humans during their brief contact. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. A new alert sounded, multiple signals now, spreading across the quarantine zone's border. More ships responding, more humans volunteering to help the civilization that had locked them away. They're coming, she whispered, watching the signals multiply. The Deathworlders are coming to fight death itself. And for the first time since the necrophages appeared, Nixus felt something more powerful than hope, certainty. The humans would come, and they would bring with them everything the galaxy had once feared, their strength, their tenacity, their refusal to accept defeat. The monsters were coming to fight the monsters. And the galaxy would never be the same. Fleet Commander Jenna Blackwood stood at the bridge of the UES Hyperion, watching the holographic display of ships gathering at the edge of human space. 200 years of isolation had taught humanity many things, but patience wasn't one of them. Within hours of receiving the alien distress signal, every colony in the Sol system had volunteered ships and crews. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying across the bridge with practiced authority. Lieutenant Ravi Patel's fingers danced across his haptic interface. 57 ships ready for immediate departure. Another 32 completing final modifications. The Mars shipyards are working at maximum capacity to retrofit the civilian vessels. Jenna nodded, studying the fleet composition. The aliens would probably expect sleek, advanced warships. Instead, they'd get a mixture of military vessels, modified mining ships, and converted ice haulers, humanity's signature approach of using whatever worked. "Commander," called out Security Chief Dmitry Volkov from his station, "we're receiving a transmission from the quarantine border. It's different from the others. Put it through." The holographic display shifted, showing a being covered in iridescent feathers. Despite 2 centuries of separation, Jenna immediately recognized a Xylaxian High Counselor from the historical records. "I am High Counselor Nixus," the alien began, her feathers shifting through colors Jenna's eyes could barely process. "We owe humanity an explanation, and an apology, before you commit to helping us." Jenna straightened. This wasn't in any of the first contact protocols they'd practiced. "I'm Fleet Commander Blackwood. We're preparing to assist, but yes, some context would be helpful. 200 years ago, we quarantined humanity because we feared your potential for violence, your redundant systems, your primitive approaches to survival." Nixus's feathers dulled to a deep blue. "We were arrogant, believing our advanced technology made us superior. Now that same technology fails us against an enemy that devours worlds." The bridge crew remained silent, but Jenna could feel the tension. 2 centuries of isolation had left its mark on humanity's collective psyche. "The necrophages," Nixus continued, "emerged from the void 6 months ago. They're unlike anything we've encountered, microscopic machines that consume organic matter and adapt to any energy weapon we devise. We've lost 17 worlds already." Jenna gestured to Ravi, who immediately began compiling the data. "And you think we can help because we're primitive? Because you survive?" Nixus's image leaned forward. "Your species thrives in conditions that would kill most galactic citizens. You build backup systems, use physical weapons alongside energy ones, plan for failure instead of assuming success. We need those skills now." Lieutenant Wei Zhang spoke up from the engineering station. "Commander, if these necrophages adapt to energy weapons but maintain physical form, our kinetic weapons might." "Exactly," Jenna finished the thought. "Sometimes the old ways work best." She turned back to Nixus. "We'll help, but we have conditions." "Name them." "First, the quarantine ends. Permanently. Humanity gets full access to galactic space and technology." Jenna watched Nixus's feathers closely. Second, we do this our way. No interference with our military doctrine or ship designs. Agreed, Nixus replied without hesitation. And your third condition? Jenna smiled. Bold of you to assume there's a third. There's always a third with humans, Nixus said, her feathers shifting to what might have been amusement. Your historical records show your species loves redundancy. For the first time since the transmission began, laughter rippled across the bridge. Fair enough, Jenna acknowledged. Third condition, when this is over, assuming we survive, there will be a full accounting. We want to understand why we were really quarantined. Nixus's feathers shifted through several colors before settling on a deep purple. Agreed. Though I suspect you already know. We feared what we didn't understand, and we didn't understand how a species could evolve to be both so strong and so kind. Speaking of strength, Dimitri interrupted, long-range sensors are picking up something at the edge of the Arcturus sector. Energy signature matches the description of the necrophages. Jenna's expression hardened. How long until they reach the nearest inhabited system? At their current speed? 72 hours. Then we have 71 hours to prepare. Jenna turned back to Nixus. Send us everything you have on these things. Technical data, combat footage, analysis, everything. We'll handle the rest. As Nixus's image faded, Jenna addressed her crew. Lieutenant Zhang, I want options for physical countermeasures against microscopic machines. Chief Volkov, coordinate with the fleet to establish backup communication systems, radio waves, laser signals, even Morse code if we have to. Lieutenant Patel, get me a direct line to the Mars shipyards. If we're fighting organic eating machines, we might need to modify our hull compositions. She turned to face the main viewport, watching as more ships joined the growing fleet. 2 centuries ago, humanity had been locked away because they were too dangerous. Now that same capacity for violence, that same stubborn refusal to die, might be exactly what the galaxy needed. All hands, she announced shipwide, prepare for combat operations. We're about to remind the galaxy why they once feared us. The crew responded with a chorus of, "Aye, Commander," each voice carrying the weight of 200 years of waiting. Humanity was returning to the stars, not with revenge in their hearts, but with the determination to protect even those who had once rejected them. The warriors they had feared were coming to be their salvation. The Arcturus system blazed with weapon fire as humanity made its first stand against the necrophages. Fleet Commander Jenna Blackwood watched from the Hyperion's bridge as salvos of tungsten shells crossed paths with swarms of microscopic machines that gleamed like dark stars against the void. Direct hit on the primary cluster, reported Lieutenant Patel, his voice tight with concentration. Kinetic rounds are having an effect, they can't adapt to pure physics. Jenna allowed herself a grim smile. The necrophages had evolved to counter energy weapons, but they'd never faced an enemy that still believed in throwing rocks, albeit rocks accelerated to relativistic speeds. Multiple contacts. Chief Volkov's warning cut through the bridge chatter. They're trying to flank the Xylaxian support ships. Not today, Jenna muttered. All ships, execute pattern Delta. Protective screen around our allies. Let's show them what those primitive armor plates can do. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, modified mining ships and armored cruisers forming a barrier between the necrophage swarms and the more delicate alien vessels. Impact alerts screamed across every deck as the microscopic machines slammed against reinforced hull plating. Hull integrity at 82% and holding, Lieutenant Zhang reported from engineering. The ceramic titanium composite is working, they can't digest it fast enough to breach. A new voice cut through the command channel, High Counselor Nixus, broadcasting from her flagship. Commander Blackwood, our sensors indicate 3 more necrophage clusters approaching from the system's outer rim. Acknowledged. Jenna studied the tactical display, mind racing. Lieutenant Zhang, status on the prototype? Ready for deployment, Commander. But we've never tested it in actual combat conditions. No time like the present. Jenna opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, fall back to secondary positions. Prepare for Operation Sandstorm. The human fleet executed a fighting retreat, drawing the necrophage swarms into a tight pursuit formation. From the cargo holds of converted ice haulers, millions of microscopic machines of their own design spilled into space, not to consume, but to protect. Nanite clouds deployed, Zhang announced. Beginning electromagnetic pulse sequence. Bands of artificial lightning crackled between human ships, catching both their nanites and the necrophages in a web of energy. But while the human-made machines were hardened against the pulses, the necrophages weren't. It's working. Patel's excitement was palpable. Their coordination is breaking down. The swarms are losing cohesion. Jenna leaned forward. All ships, weapons free. Fire everything we've got. The space around Arcturus erupted in a symphony of destruction. Railguns spat hypervelocity rounds. Missile batteries emptied their magazines. Even the civilian ships joined in, their mining lasers recalibrated to cut through the now disorganized swarms. Commander, Nixus's voice carried a note of awe. Your tactics, they're unlike anything we've seen. The way you combined physical weapons with technological countermeasures. We call it hybrid warfare, Jenna replied, watching as the remaining necrophages scattered. On Earth, we learned that no single approach guarantees victory. You have to be willing to use everything at your disposal. The battle continued for hours, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. Without their collective intelligence, the individual necrophage machines were vulnerable to the combined assault. By the time Arcturus's primary star rose over the system's main colony, the threat had been eliminated. Damage report, Jenna called out as the last all-clear signals came in. 12 ships reporting moderate damage, 3 with severe hull breaches, Volkov summarized. But no losses. The redundant systems kept everyone alive. The Xylaxian fleet? Intact, thanks to our screening maneuver. Patel paused. Commander, they're requesting permission to dock. Their engineers want to study our armor designs. Jenna felt a deep satisfaction. Not vindication, humanity had moved past that need for revenge, but pride in proving their worth through actions rather than words. Permission granted. Lieutenant Zhang, prepare technical briefings on our hull compositions and backup systems. Let's show our allies that sometimes the best path forward is remembering the lessons of the past. As she watched Xylaxian shuttles approach the Hyperion's docking bays, Jenna reflected on the irony. The very traits that had once made humanity too dangerous to join galactic society, their redundant systems, their preparation for failure, their refusal to rely solely on advanced technology, had become their greatest contribution to it. Commander, Volkov interrupted her thoughts, long-range sensors are detecting more necrophage signatures. At least 3 times as many as this group. Good. Jenna's response drew surprised looks from her bridge crew. That means we hurt them enough for them to take us seriously. Send word to the fleet, we rearm, we repair, and we get ready for round 2. Humanity didn't survive Earth's gravity well by giving up when things got difficult. The crew's response was immediate and unanimous, aye, Commander. As the fleet began its preparations for the next battle, Jenna knew this was just the beginning. The necrophages would adapt, would come back stronger. But so would humanity. They always had. After all, that's what Deathworlders did best, face the impossible, adapt, and overcome. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth's children had not just survived their harsh cradle, but had thrived in it. And the necrophages? They were about to learn what happened and you backed a Deathworlder into a corner. The Mars shipyards had never seen anything like it. Xylaxian engineers worked alongside human technicians, their iridescent feathers catching the red sunlight as they integrated their advanced energy systems into humanity's robust hull designs. Crystalline beings floated through maintenance tubes, their bodies refracting light as they helped optimize the new hybrid weapon systems. Fleet Commander Jenna Blackwood stood in the observation deck of the newly commissioned UES Prometheus, watching the controlled chaos with High Counselor Nixus at her side. "Your people learn quickly," Nixus observed, her feathers shifting through shades of admiration. "In 3 weeks, you've absorbed centuries of our technological advancement. And you've adapted well to our primitive methods," Jenna replied, gesturing to the physical armor being installed on Xylaxian vessels. "Though I suspect it wasn't easy for your engineers to admit our backup systems had merit. Pride," Nixus's feathers darkened momentarily, "has been our greatest weakness. We thought advancement meant abandoning the old ways. We never considered that true progress might mean embracing both." A holographic alert materialized between them, Lieutenant Zhang requesting their presence in the tactical center. As they made their way through the ship's corridors, Jenna noticed how Nixus no longer struggled with the artificial gravity. The Xylaxian had been training herself to endure human environmental conditions. The tactical center buzzed with activity. Lieutenant Patel and Chief Volkov stood with Zhang around a massive holographic display showing the movement of necrophage swarms across the galaxy. "Report," Jenna commanded, taking her position at the strategy table. "The enemy is adapting," Zhang began, manipulating the hologram to zoom in on recent battle footage. "They've developed countermeasures against our basic kinetic weapons. Their outer shells now include reactive armor that fragments our rounds before impact. But that's not the worst part," Volkov added grimly. "Show her the Centauri footage." The hologram shifted to show a recent engagement. Jenna's eyes narrowed as she watched necrophage swarms actually using human tactics against a colonial defense fleet, creating screening formations, using coordinated attack patterns, even employing their own version of hybrid warfare. "They're learning," Nixus whispered, her feathers paling. "Not just adapting, but actually learning from us." "Good." Jenna's response drew surprised looks. "That means they can be outthought." "Lieutenant Zhang, what's the status of Project Prometheus?" Zhang brought up a new set of schematics. "The integration of Xylaxian quantum technology with our mechanical systems is proceeding ahead of schedule. The prototype is ready for testing." "Wait," Nixus interrupted, her feathers shifting rapidly through colors of confusion and concern. "You're not suggesting we actually attempt to interface with their hive mind?" "That's exactly what I'm suggesting." Jenna manipulated the hologram, expanding the design details. "Your quantum communications technology, combined with our cybernetic interface systems, could allow us to do more than just fight the necrophages. We could understand them. And potentially control them," Patel added quietly. The room fell silent. Even after weeks of cooperation, this level of technological hybridization, combining the best of human and alien approaches, was unprecedented. "It's too dangerous," Nixus protested, but her feathers showed uncertainty. "If the interface fails, if they take control instead?" "Then we have backup systems," Jenna finished. "Multiple redundancies, mechanical killswitches, and a full quarantine protocol. We're not just throwing technology at the problem. We're applying everything we've learned from both our peoples." The tactical display updated with new information. 3 more systems had gone dark while they debated. The necrophages were accelerating their advance, perhaps sensing the growing threat of the human-alien alliance. "We're running out of time," Volkov noted, his voice heavy with urgency. "Long-range scans suggest they're gathering for a major push toward the core worlds." Nixus's feathers settled into the deep purple of decision. "What do you need from us?" "Full access to your quantum engineering archives," Jenna replied immediately. "And volunteers to help pilot the interface system. We'll need people who understand both our technologies." "You'll have them." Nixus turned to face Jenna fully. 200 years ago, we feared humanity's potential for violence. We never understood that the same drive that made you dangerous also made you ingenious, adaptable, and, her feathers shifted to a color humans had no name for, incredibly protective of others. Commander, Zhang interrupted, we're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of charted space. The necrophages, they're gathering their forces. How many? All of them. Every swarm we've detected, converging into a single mass. Jenna studied the tactical display, mind racing through possibilities. They know what we're planning. Somehow, they know we're close to a breakthrough, and they're not going to wait for us to finish. Then we don't wait either. Nixus's declaration surprised everyone. My engineers will work around the clock. We'll have the interface ready in 48 hours. That's impossible, Zhang protested. The integration alone should take. We no longer have the luxury of time, Jenna cut in. Sometimes impossible is just what hasn't been tried yet. She turned to her crew. Sound General Quarters. Alert all ships in the combined fleet. We're about to find out if humanity's greatest gamble will pay off. As alarms began to sound throughout the shipyards, Jenna caught Nixus studying her. Having second thoughts about letting us out of quarantine? The Xylaxian's feathers rippled with what might have been laughter. On the contrary. I'm thinking that the galaxy's greatest mistake was not asking for your help sooner. Well, Jenna replied, watching as the combined fleet began to form up around the Prometheus, you know what they say about better late than never. The next 48 hours would determine whether humanity's approach to survival, their stubborn insistence on redundancy, their fusion of old and new technologies, their willingness to take calculated risks, would save the galaxy or doom it. Either way, they would face it together, pride and prejudice finally set aside in the face of extinction itself. The void between stars rippled with darkness as the largest necrophage swarm ever recorded bore down on the combined human-alien fleet. Aboard the UES Prometheus, Fleet Commander Jenna Blackwood stood in the newly constructed interface chamber, surrounded by a maze of machinery that represented the ultimate fusion of human and alien technology. Neural interface online, Lieutenant Zhang reported from his station. Quantum field generators at maximum capacity. Beside him, 3 Xylaxian engineers monitored streams of data, their feathers shifting through technical readout patterns faster than human eyes could follow. High Counselor Nixus stood at Jenna's side, her own feathers a steady purple of resolve. The interface pod is ready, Nixus said softly. Are you certain you want to be the one to do this? Jenna checked the connections on her neural suit one final time. The interface was my idea. I won't ask anyone else to take this risk. Multiple contact alerts. Chief Volkov's voice came through the ship-wide comm, the swarm is accelerating. Time to intercept, 10 minutes. Jenna turned to address the combined fleet through the quantum comm network. All ships, battle formations. Remember your training. Physical weapons first, then electromagnetic pulses, then energy weapons. Hit them with everything we've got, but keep them focused on us. The Prometheus needs time to establish the interface. She stepped into the pod as acknowledgments flooded in from human and alien vessels alike. The crystalline interface material, a gift from the Xylaxian Science Council, began to flow around her, forming a perfect neural connection. Starting interface sequence, Zhang announced. Quantum field stable. Neural patterns holding steady. Jenna felt the first brush of alien consciousness against her mind as the necrophage swarm came within range. It was vast, cold, and utterly alien, a collective intelligence that viewed organic life as nothing more than raw material to be processed. They're launching their first wave. Patel's voice seemed distant now. Multiple breakthrough attempts on our flanks. Through the interface, Jenna could feel the swarm's tactics, could sense its confidence in victory. But she could also feel something else, confusion. The necrophages had never encountered a resistance like this before, had never faced an enemy that combined physical and energy weapons with such precision. Receiving telemetry from the fleet, Volkov reported. Kinetic barriers holding. Modified hull plating performing above expectations. But the swarm's adapting fast. Jenna pushed deeper into the interface, past the swarm's surface thoughts and into its core consciousness. Images flashed through her mind, endless void, ancient hunger, a mission spanning millions of years. The necrophages weren't just consuming life, they were cataloging it, preserving its patterns in their own twisted way. Commander, Nixus's voice cut through the visions, your neural patterns are becoming erratic. If we lose you to their consciousness. Trust me, Jenna managed through gritted teeth. Like we trust you now. She could feel the swarm trying to break through her mental defenses, trying to subsume her consciousness into their collective. But humanity hadn't survived Earth's crushing gravity and deadly radiation by being easy to kill. And they hadn't thrived in isolation by being easy to break. With a supreme effort of will, Jenna pushed back against the hive mind. But instead of attacking, she opened herself to it, sharing her own memories, Earth's beautiful brutality, humanity's struggles and triumphs, the recent weeks of cooperation with former enemies. The swarm's assault faltered. Energy spike in the quantum field. Zhang shouted. They're responding. Through the interface, Jenna felt the swarm's confusion deepen. In all their eons of existence, they had never encountered a species that willingly shared information this way. Their purpose was to preserve life's patterns by consuming it, but here was a being freely offering understanding. Multiple swarm elements breaking formation, Volkov reported with disbelief. Their attack patterns are disintegrating. Jenna pressed her advantage, not with weapons but with more memories, the joy of discovery, the strength found in cooperation, the power of choosing to trust former enemies. She showed the swarm that life's patterns could be preserved through connection rather than consumption. The vast consciousness reeled, its fundamental purpose challenged for the first time in millions of years. Through their connection, Jenna felt the first stirrings of something new in the hive mind, curiosity. Commander, Nixus called out, her feathers blazing with colors no human had ever seen, the swarm, its changing configuration. The necrophage machines were reforming, their deadly purpose gradually shifting. Through the interface, Jenna felt their ancient programming beginning to adapt in a way their creators had never intended. All ships, she broadcast through gritted teeth, hold your fire unless directly threatened. Something's happening. The massive swarm, capable of stripping worlds bare, slowly arranged itself into a geometric pattern before the combined fleet. Through their connection, Jenna felt its intention, not to destroy, but to communicate. They want to learn, she whispered, her voice carrying across suddenly silent command channels. All this time, they were preserving life the only way they knew how. But we've shown them another way. Stand down to condition yellow, she ordered, feeling the swarm's agreement through their link. And get me a secure channel to every civilian science institution in both human and alien space. I think. She smiled through her exhaustion, I think we're about to have a lot of very interesting conversations. Hours later, as the combined fleet escorted the now docile swarm to a designated research sector, Jenna stood with Nixus in the Prometheus's observation deck. You took an impossible risk, the Xylaxian said, her feathers still showing traces of anxiety. Reaching out to them like that, opening yourself to their consciousness. Sometimes the greatest risk is not taking one at all, Jenna replied. You took a risk reaching out to us after centuries of isolation. We took a risk answering your call without guarantee of reconciliation. And now. She gestured to where human and alien ships flew in formation around their former enemy. Look what we've achieved together. The galaxy will never be the same, Nixus observed, her feathers shifting to show a complex emotion that mixed hope with uncertainty. Good, Jenna smiled. Change is how we grow. It's how we learn to be better than what we were. She turned to face her alien friend. Besides, if a bunch of Deathworlders and their former wardens can learn to work together, anything's possible. As if to emphasize her point, a signal came through from the science teams already studying the swarm's transformed configuration. Initial results suggested the necrophages could be reprogrammed for creation rather than consumption, their world-stripping power turned to terraforming, their pattern preservation drives adapted for cultural exchange. You know, Nixus said thoughtfully, 200 years ago, we thought we were protecting the galaxy by quarantining humanity. We never imagined you would end up saving it instead. Not just us, Jenna corrected. We did this together. Your technology, our tactics. Your wisdom, our determination. Turns out the galaxy needed both. Beyond the viewport, the combined fleet continued its patrol, human ships flying alongside alien vessels, protecting the very force they had fought so hard to defeat. It was a new age for the galaxy, one where strength and wisdom, progress and tradition, past and future could coexist and thrive together. The Deathworlders had come not to conquer, but to protect. And in doing so, they had turned ancient enemies into allies, transformed destruction into creation, and proved that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe wasn't technology or weapons or even survival instinct, it was the willingness to reach out across the void and trust.